Parliament has rejected the suggestion that it will not be able to prevent a state capture in the future. This comes after Parliament's presiding officers met with Chief Justice Raymond Zondo at Constitutional Hill to discuss his remarks. Now, Zondo said that Parliament has been slow in implementing the State Capture Commission recommendations. National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula says Parliament is working on implementing some of those recommendations.
Of course, we were shocked. We did not expect it. That's the truth of the matter. There hadn't been some prior consultation as to what would come out of a lecture, if it was a memorial lecture by the CJ. Of course, the Parliament, is subjected to public scrutiny all the time. However, the one reason why we decided that we should have an engagement with the CJ is that there's a difference between what you write, what you say, and what any other South African says about Parliament or about an arm of the state, which is the legislature. But it's something else when a head of an arm of the state, of that institution, the judiciary, raises a matter in the public arena about another arm of the state. You get my point? So it's not so much that you are beyond, as Parliament, we are beyond reproach. We do not want criticism. No. It is about a head of the judiciary, the Chief Justice of the Republic of South Africa, takes the floor and raises issues which he has never raised with the presiding officers of Parliament. Now, the state is made of three arms. South Africa is a constitutional democracy. We have these three arms of the state which collaborate, which cooperate, but once you pick up something that is likely to cause and give a picture to the South African public that there is no stability in the state. Because when that happens, it creates amongst yourselves and everybody an impression that these people are not talking. What's happening? These ones are undermining that one. What is this now? Is this the democracy we have? We have a stable democracy. And part of its foundations should be regular interactions between the heads of the three arms of the state. So when that statement came out, and of course there was reaction to the statement, but you must have observed that from the side of the presiding officer, the executive authority of Parliament, we did not respond, deliberately so, because it can't be us who, in a public domain, in the streets, responding to a matter raised by the Chief Justice. We had a quick consultation and we said, we're not going to respond to this at best, so that we needed to understand the context within which his remarks were made. So we had this interaction with the Chief Justice, and indeed, we do have an appreciation of the context within which the remarks were made.
Let's stay with this particular matter and speak to Dr. Levy Ndou, who's a political analyst, and Mpumelelo Zikalala, in fact, a political analyst, and Mpumelelo Zikalala, who's a legal analyst. Let me thank you both for your time. I'll begin with you, Dr. Ndou. The fact that even after this particular meeting, yes, both parties understand where the either comes from, but the Chief Justice did not withdraw his remarks. Was this a face-saving exercise in your view?
Good afternoon, Bongi. Good afternoon, Mpumelelo, and the viewers at home. Either way, whether the issues raised by the Chief Justice were not supposed to have been done, or whether he should have met with the presiding officers to raise his concerns, could be neither here nor there. But the point of the matter is that the public out there would love to know what has actually happened with the State Capture Commission? What is the progress in relation to the issues that has been raised by the Commission? And in my view, that also became a good opportunity, which triggered the Parliament to provide a report on exactly what is it that they've been doing. We're not sure if Parliament was going to be able to have a press briefing and tell society about the progress that has been made, if indeed Chief Justice would not have addressed the gathering that he addressed last week. But the point of the matter is that South Africans remain worried, and some have got concerns that a lot of resources have been put aside in order to have a commission that has brought in recommendations. And I think at this stage, we are quite on a safer side, because at least Parliament has actually provided a briefing on the progress that they're actually making. Other issues will remain a PR exercise, how the Chief Justice and Parliament communicates. That is the matter that can be sorted at a later stage. But for now, we know what is actually happening in relation to Parliament and the recommendations from the
Khuzeni, Parliament expressing shock, but it appears that the issue is not about what was said, but the manner in which all of this was done, not alerting Parliament, according to it, first, that there are issues, and learning through the media and in the public that there are actually some issues here. Some accuse the Chief Justice of overstepping. Others are saying he was well within his rights as the chair of the commission. What is your take?
Good afternoon, Mangat, and also to Dr. and the viewers at home. I seem to align myself with the people who are going to say you may have overstepped your mark, Chief Justice. Let's remember, substantive compliance and procedural compliance is crucial. You can't have one without acknowledging the other. Now, as a person who is within the commission who fully understands the manner in which these type of manner they should be communicated, and in instances of non-compliance, what is it that you must do? It then says to the Chief Justice, if you have a problem that your commission report recommendations have not been followed, there are ways and means in terms of addressing this, and not addressing it through media statements. You should try and avoid all those things, because you are not going to get a substantive response or much insight as to what exactly has taken place. Now, the type of media reports in which was given today is the one that all should have given by Parliament much earlier, as Dr. Lowe is alluding to. But for the Chief Justice to then raise his concern in this particular manner, it is something which is not supposed to happen, because procedurally it is not something that you can be able to hold individuals accountable to. But then for me, it then speaks to a much bigger picture of saying that within the whole notion of state capture, my only problem with it was that it highlighted issues that were already there and did not delve into the cause for concerns as to why things are not moving in the manner in which they should be moving in. Put in another word, the tools of accountability are there. However, the individuals that should be utilizing those tools are the exact ones who are leaving the tools behind. And instead of using the tools as available at their disposal, the recommendation was that let's have more tools that you can be able to engage and make sure that people are accountable to. It is not going to solve the problem that we have. If you look at Parliament as an institution, it allows any individuals or gives powers and privileges to members of Parliament to say, we are going to call anyone that we like to come and account to us as to whether there's been legislative compliance or not. Now, if you are going to have instances in which the head of the judiciary is asking for accountability in this particular manner, then it's going to cause problems at the end of the day. The separation of powers must be observed, but most importantly, substantive compliance is much as important as procedural compliance.
But is the difference between politics and law, Khuzeni, always very, very clear and distinct?
Not at all times. However, we always say, always err on the side of what the legislation is telling you, because it gives you clear timelines as to how things are supposed to be done. So if as the Chief Justice, you are not happy in the manner in which those recommendations are being adhered to, write a letter of demand to Parliament and say to them, we've given you a report in October saying the following recommendations must be done, provide the report as to why this has not been accomplished, or provided within an X number of days, failing which I'm going to go to court and say to the court, I must compel you to stick to what the recommendations actually stated, because they are binding and valid up until the court of law sets them aside. That's the correct procedure in terms of approaching, and not to go within an address which is addressed to members of the public and state your concern. You can't do that.
And Dr. Ndou, there is also, of course, the issue that they argue as the presiding officers that they've done all they could, particularly in some of the issues that, have been raised and some of the issues that were playing out in the public domain, even in Parliament. That is the Phala Phala report, for example. They say they tabled this report before Parliament, but the parties voted in a certain way. And they say that means then it is now out of their hands. So should we only look at the political parties here, though, or the presiding officers have got a role to play in this?
Well, presiding officers have got a responsibility to ensure that all the activities and programs of Parliament are actually running smoothly, and they ensure that even though they are sent by political parties, they ensure that they do whatever work that they have to do, ensuring that they are as neutral as possible. And they are just a vehicle to ensure that the work of Parliament has to continue. But at the same time, I want to agree with what Mr. Zikalala is saying, relating to how the different heads of the key government institutions are supposed to relate with one another. One of the biggest questions would be, if you are given a responsibility to run a commission, and you do your work within a given time frame, what then becomes your responsibility beyond the work that you are actually given? And I think what you need to do is to say, I have presented the recommendations to the right people. What is therefore left is for them to actually start doing their work. Because as far as I know, the work of the commission has started and it has actually come to an end. And I think that chapter on the base of the commission is closed. But it is also important for those who have been given a huge task to perform, to find other better ways and means to communicate with those that are given such responsibilities, because obviously they might feel that maybe to a certain extent their work is not being taken seriously, once they feel that they've actually invested a lot of work in that commission, especially when there is a huge public interest.
Now, Kuzeni, what does this then all say and do, particularly in the layer of the functioning of the three arms of the state? Very briefly.
It adds a bit of strain as to how they're going to relate to each other. There are instances of non-compliance with applicable legislation as to how they should relate to one another. In this sense, I mean, if you have a report that has been given, and it's just not being implemented, you go to court and you compel the other party to implement whatever that you've recommended, not to do it in a manner in which things have been done. Another question could be asked of the commission itself. The number of instances in which you've met through media reports that there are outstanding court documents in which they ought to have filed because certain individuals have taken it on review, and in instances in which they have failed, are tend to be corrected on that matter. Now, somebody can come back and say, but you are the one who's calling the kettle black while you have a problem yourself. So why aren't you doing things in a proper manner? I'll come back to this point. Substantive fairness, substantive compliance is just as important as procedural compliance. In instances where you are not happy with whatever that has been said or done or not done, go to court and compel those individuals to implement it, and then you are going to be satisfied as to how your recommendations were then taken, and not through the media and not through reports. It's not done in that manner.
And it'll be interesting to see how this one unfolds, particularly in the work of, these three arms of government. But let me thank you all for your time. I do appreciate it. That was Dr. Levy Ndou, political analyst, and Mpumelelo Zikalala, a legal analyst as well.